Hello and welcome back to Today in the NBA, where today I'm going to be doing a little thing called the Walk in the West. I'm going to do this for both the West and the East, and I'm just going to be going over each division in each episode. So today is Walk in the West Part 1, where we're going to be going over the Northwest Division, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz, and the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, starting off with the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have a record of 15-4, which is good for the best record in the West and tying with the Boston Celtics for best record in the league. The Timberwolves, what's really made them so good this year is their defense. They are first in the league in defensive rating with a rating of 106.7, which is really, really, really good. Their offense is slightly below middle of the pack. They're 18th with 113.2. Now, starting off with the Timberwolves defense, I think the reason they've been so great is obviously Rudy Gobert, but they also have two great perimeter defenders in Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. The defensive scheme that Chris Finch has been running has been really, really good. I think it's pretty similar to what he was doing last year. It's a little bit more aggressive though. He does have Rudy a little bit higher up on screens. He does have Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels fighting the other guards around the screen. Karl-Anthony Towns, he doesn't get put in too many screens, as he's usually guarding one of the less threatening offensive players on the opposing team. Another reason why this defensive scheme is so great is because of the amount of mid-range jumpers they force. I think they force the most in the league, and this is normally a really, really good thing. I think that this is definitely something that is going to be able to hold up for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs, and if that can happen, I don't see any reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves can't maintain the 1 seed for the rest of the year. Now, the one thing that the Minnesota Timberwolves do need to improve on is their offense. I think that, especially at the start of the season, they've looked a little bit shaky. They haven't really known what to do. Their floor spacing's been a little bit off. But now that they're getting more into the season, I think that it is going to improve. The Mike Conley pick and rolls with both Cat and Rudy Gobert, especially with Rudy Gobert, have been quite nice. The Karl-Anthony Towns to Rudy Gobert connection has been there, with Cat throwing a few beautiful lobs to Rudy. I think Rudy has been improving a little bit as an offensive player. He still doesn't really have much of a post game, but he has been better at running the lane, catching lobs. Most of his points, though, are going to be coming from lobs and putbacks from offensive rebounds. Anthony Edwards, of course, has been amazing. Cat, as I said before, has been amazing. Probably the best season of his career. Not his best efficiency, not his most points, but he has been winning while shooting over 50, 40, 90, which is really, really, really good. And if he can continue that for the rest of the season, I don't see any reason why this Timberwolves offense isn't going to be improving. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about with the Timberwolves is their rotation. I've got a really great starting five, and off the bench, they're solid too. Anthony Edwards has been injured. Jaden McDaniels has been injured. I think Jaden McDaniels is only going to be out for another week or so. And Anthony Edwards, I think he's coming back in 2 days on Wednesday. So I'm not too worried about that. And if this team can stay healthy, I think they are going to be amazing for the rest of the season, and they're going to be a great watch and hopefully a great contender. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been another surprising team this season, just like the Timberwolves. People thought that they would maybe push for the 6th seed. They've been great, managing to grab the 2nd seed in the West with a record of 13-6. Their offense has been amazing this season, good for 5th in the league with a rating of 117.9. Their defense has also been amazing this season, good for 5th in the league again with a rating of 109.5. Now, I think the big difference between this year and last year for both the Thunder's offense and their defense has been Chet Holmgren. He's been amazing defensively. The one thing the Thunder needed was a big that was able to block shots, alter shots at the rim, and just overall protect the rim. Chet is that player. He's perfect in that role. He's an incredible rim protector even as a rookie, being up, I think, in the top 5 in the entire league for most blocks, which is incredibly impressive. And the offense, he's also been amazing for them. Last year, when Mike Muscala was playing, the Thunder had an incredible offensive rating. Mike Muscala, he's got a little bit of a post-game. Chet's is probably better, and he can shoot. That was the one thing. The Thunder were spaced out really well, which just allowed Shea, Giddey, J-Dub to go to work. Chet is able to do that same thing while also being an incredible defender, and he has been amazing for this team. He is exactly what they needed, and I think if the OKC Thunder got that pick again, they would still choose Chet 10 times out of 10. Now the Thunder, they have been so good defensively because they have Lu Dort and Chet Holmgren. Lu Dort is probably a top 3 perimeter defender in the NBA, and Chet Holmgren is probably a top 5 paint defender in the NBA. The combination of those two, to go along with decent defenders like Shai, Giddey, and J-Dub, is going to make for a great defensive team a lot of the time. They also have great defenders off the bench in Kenrich Williams and Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace is another rookie, but he's still proven to be a solid defender. Also, out of nowhere, he's shooting lights out. I think he's at something like 50% from 3. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be able to maintain that for the whole season, but if he can even stick around 35% from 3, that's going to be great for the Thunder as a good bench guard that can lock down on defense and not hurt your floor spacing is exactly what you want to have. I think the big thing with why the Thunder have been so good defensively this season is how switchable they are. They've got a big lineup. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 6'6", Giddey, 6'7", 6'8", Lu Dort's around 6'4", J-Dub, 6'6", and Chet Holmgren, 7 foot, 7'1". Chet is really light on his feet though, really mobile, so he is able to switch onto guards. You probably don't want him switching onto some of the smaller, quicker guards, but he's definitely able to hold his own against some of the wings of the league. This means that in a pick and roll, Chet can switch onto the guard, Shai can switch onto the big. Shai's not the strongest player in the world though, so you probably don't want to do that every time, but if you have to do it to, I don't know, mix up your matchups, throw the offensive players off their timing, off their decision making, then you will happily do it, and I think that that's the big reason they've been so good defensively. To go along with Lu Dort, again, top 3 perimeter defender in the NBA, I'd say. He's just been great at locking up the opposing team's best player, and he's strong too. So if he gets switched onto a big, as long as it's not one of the more skilled players who can shoot, who can pass, like Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, he's pretty happy. He can hold his own, so I think the Thunder are pretty comfortable with that, and that's a big reason why they've been so good. To go along with that, we've also got Chet Holmgren roaming sometimes, which is great because as a help defender, he's incredible. He's a better help defender than he is on-ball defender just because of how skinny he is. That's something he's going to need to work on, but again, I think that is definitely something that he could do in his career. Now, the offense, obviously, when you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you're going to be amazing when you're spaced out like they are, when you've got players shooting 50, 40, I think 85, which is what Chet splits are. You're going to be really good off the bench. You've got plenty of floor spacing. You've got probably one of the best off-ball shooters in the league in Isaiah Joe. I think he's good for first or second in the league in three-point percentage at the moment. Don't quote me on that though, that's just off of memory. Overall, this team has been really, really, really good, and I think it is very sustainable what they're doing, and hopefully they will be able to carry that throughout the rest of the season. Now, just a quick thing before we move on to the Nuggets. I don't want to say anything about Josh Giddey yet. I don't know what's happened. We haven't heard the facts yet. We've just got accusations. I'm not saying anything's happened. I'm not saying anything hasn't happened. The NBA and the police are both investigating it. So when the investigations come out, we'll know more about what happened and we will be able to talk about it then. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets, who have a record of 14-7. They've been really good this season. Defensively, they've been sort of surprising with a defensive rating of 112.4, which is good for 11th in the league. Offensively, again, they've been pretty good. I think with Jamal Murray being injured for a decent part of the season, they have struggled a little bit more. But again, you've got Nikola Jokic on your team. You're never going to be a bad offensive team. 117.0, good for 10th in the league. Again, Nikola Jokic has been playing like an MVP again this year. I think he's first in the Vegas odds to win MVP. Jamal Murray has been injured. I think he's only 2 or 3 days away at this point though. He is listed as day-to-day on the depth chart, so hopefully he could be coming back soon. Now, defensively, this team, Nikola Jokic, I think, has turned into, I would say, a positive defender. He's definitely above average. He's been great at calling out rotations. He's a smart player. He's going to be able to do that. Down low, he's strong, so he is able to be a solid on-ball defender. He does foul a little bit more than you'd like, but that's not really that big of a deal, seeing as the Nuggets do try and keep him out of as many actions as possible. They are running him in more of a drop with pick and rolls, which is probably what you have to do, as he is fairly slow-footed, so he is going to be getting beat a lot by opposing guards. Aaron Gordon, he's strong, he's quick, he's athletic. He's a great player. He's probably one of the better players you want paired up with Nikola Jokic defensively. He's able to switch, he's able to defend bigs due to how strong he is, and he's quick, he's athletic. He's a very good help defender, especially for his size. KCP's been a great defender this year. Christian Braun off the bench has been pretty decent. Now this team, I think they are probably going to hover around 11th in the league defensively. Maybe they'll drop more down towards the middle of the pack, maybe 13th or 14th. I think that if that's what the team is for the season though, you will live with it. Once Jamal Murray gets back though, this team offensively is going to be so much better. Reggie Jackson's been great this season, but he's still nowhere near what Jamal Murray is for this team. That Jamal Murray-Nikola Jokic pick and roll is terrifying, and it's probably one of the hardest things to guard in the entire league. Now, before Jamal Murray got injured, I believe the Nuggets were the first seed in the West, so hopefully when he gets back, they will be able to push back up into that first seed position. But even if they do remain around the third seed for the rest of the season, maybe drop down to even the fourth seed even, they will live with it. Just their team will be a little bit more rested for the playoffs, hopefully, and that who knows, they might be able to go back to back and win another ring. Now, the one thing with the Denver Nuggets is their bench. Reggie Jackson, Christian Braun, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Zeke Nnaji, Justin Holiday. Reggie Jackson, I'd say he's been above average for them. He's been a lot better than he was last season and the season before. I think he's definitely going to be a serviceable backup point guard for them. Christian Braun hasn't really taken the steps that we wanted to see from him, but again, I think he's a solid role player. He's pretty good to have off the bench. Zeke Nnaji off the bench has been pretty solid. He's been seeing decent minutes, I'd say. I think it's about 12 or 14 minutes a night. Pretty good in those minutes. He's been a decent rim defender. He's quite athletic and he's quite active on the glass, so that's good to see. He's a bit slower and he's not the smartest player defensively. Offensively, he's got a pretty limited game, but all you really need him to do is set screens, catch lobs, and get offensive rebounds. He's been fine in that role. You probably want someone better, but with how good Nikola Jokic is and how many minutes you want him playing, especially in the playoffs, I think Zeke Nnaji is going to be fine. Now, the real standouts of the bench for the Nuggets have been Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson. Both of them rookies from this past draft. Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, they've both been great. I'd say that they are doing what Christian Braun did last year. Weren't expected to do much coming in, even though it's the Nuggets, and we knew they've sort of got a Miami Heat thing where they can just sort of pull players out of nowhere, and they drafted the perfect players. Both older players that are going to be able to come in and impact straight away. I didn't think, and I don't think most people thought they would be impacting the game this quickly, but they have been. They've been great. Obviously, they're not some of the best role players in the league, but for rookies, and especially late 20s, mid 20s in their picks, they've been really, really good. Overall, I think that if Jamal Murray can come back and look like he hasn't missed a beat, Zeke Nnaji, Peyton Watson, Christian Braun, Julian Strawther, if they can all continue improving just a little bit, I think I could see this team coming back and maybe regaining the first seed, but who knows, they're always going to be a contender for the playoffs. That's just what happens when you have probably the best player in the league, Nikola Jokic, on your team. Next up, we have the Utah Jazz, who have a record of 7-13, which is good for the 12th seed in the West. They haven't really been that good this season. I think they're 23rd in defensive rating, the rating of 116.7. Offensively, they're 25th with a rating of 110.5. They've seen a bit of injuries this year. Kelly Olynyk, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Markkinen. They have been hit with the injury bug a little bit. I think Larry Markkinen is 1 or 2 more weeks away. Maybe he's getting reevaluated soon. Shouldn't be out for too much longer though. Jordan Clarkson, I think he's pretty close to coming back too. He's day-to-day on the injury report, so he shouldn't be too far away. Now, defensively, this team hasn't been too good. Walker Kessler has taken a pretty decent step back from where he was last year. Not really as good of a rim protector, rebounder, or shot blocker. He's still a decent player, but, he's not as good as he was. John Collins, not a great defender. He's not really known as a great defender. He's been pretty decent for the Jazz, and this trade is looking like it's going to work out for them. He is on a bigger contract, but the Jazz don't really have to pay anyone apart from Larry Markkinen for a little bit. So by the time they do have to pay the younger players, hopefully his contract has expired. Larry Markkinen, he's been pretty good offensively, pretty similar numbers to what he was last year. Little bit less efficient, little bit less points, but it's only like 1 or 2 points, so it's not really a big deal. Jordan Clarkson, again, he's been injured. He's been pretty solid. Offensively, however, this team has struggled a lot. Their leading scorers, while Jordan Clarkson and Larry Markkinen have been out, It's sort of been split between John Collins, Keontae George and Colin Sexton, all players that you definitely don't want taking the most shots on your team. Overall, even when Larry Markkinen and Jordan Clarkson get back, I don't know if this team's going to improve a lot. Sure, they might jump up to, I don't know, at the max, 15th in the league offensively, but it's not looking great for this team. I don't think they're probably going to finish in the play-in this season. I think they will stay around the 12th seed, maybe jump up to the 11th seed, but it is going to be rough for them. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about for the Jazz this season is their rookies, Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks. Keontae George has been great for them. He's leading all rookies in assists at 5.1, which is pretty surprising, seeing as he came into the league as pretty much only a pure scorer, more of a Jordan Clarkson archetype. He's been great dishing the ball. He does struggle shooting the ball though. I think that is a combination of the amount of floaters, tough shots and mid-ranges he takes. Hopefully he will be able to improve on that. Now, Taylor Hendricks has been a little bit worrying for the Jazz, however. He's only played 20 minutes in 2 games throughout the Jazz's first, 20 games? He's shooting 29% from the field and 25% from 3 points, a block, and 1.5 boards. This is obviously an incredibly small sample size though. 2 games, hopefully he can improve. He's been in the G League a lot. He's looked pretty decent in there. I don't have his stats in front of me right now, but hopefully towards the end of the season they will be able to bring him up from the G League and give him some decent run with the main team. Now for the final team of the video, we have the Portland Trail Blazers. They've struggled this season. They have a record of 6-13, which is good for the 13th seed in the West. They have the worst offensive rating in the league with 105.4. They've been surprisingly good defensively. 112-point run defensive rating puts them at the 10th spot in the league. Now there's no other way to say it, but they have struggled this season. Scoot Henderson has been injured, but even when he's been on the court, he hasn't been looking that good. Shaedon Sharpe's been struggling this season. Anthony Simons started off the season quite well, but again, another injury, he hasn't been good. Jeremy Grant, he's been good. He's been really good for them actually. He's probably living up to the money that he's being paid, but the team's not winning. It's still a terrible contract, probably one of the worst ones in the league if you ask me. So it does not look good for the Jazz. DeAndre Ayton, we thought we could see him come out, get more opportunity, be much better, but he just hasn't been aggressive enough. He's had a couple good games, but overall he's been pretty disappointing this year. Now taking a look at some of the numbers for the players, I'm going to start off with DeAndre Ayton. He's played 30 minutes a night. It's the most minutes he's played in his career since his sophomore season. He's shooting about average for his career from the field, 58.7. He's shooting 81% from the line, which looks really good. Best mark of his career by a pretty decent margin. But the real problem is he's only taking 10 shots a night, only averaging 13 points, and he's only getting to the free throw line once a night, which is really, really, really bad for any player, especially a big man, especially one of your building blocks of the future. Overall, Ayton, he's been a solid defender. He's great at getting rebounds, but he's just not been aggressive enough, and he's honestly not looking like he's going to be the centerpiece or one of the centerpieces of the Blazers for the next few years. Now Shaedon Sharpe, as I said before, he has struggled this season. 41% from the field, 34% from 3. He is averaging 18 points, but it is on 15 shots. He is getting to the free throw line a bit. His efficiency's been down. 3 assists is really, really good for him. 6 boards. He hasn't been that good. Inefficiency, he started off the season really bad too, but hopefully he can improve that mark. Now the real worry though is Scoot Henderson. 34% from the field, 22% from 3, 68% from the line. 3 boards, 4 assists, 9 points, 3.4 turnovers, and 4.1 fouls a night. That's not very good. I think Scoot Henderson is going to be able to improve on that though. He will get better, I'd say, but to start off his career, it's not looking bright for him. Anyway, that does it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I do post regular NBA content, so it is worth keeping up to date on. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.